I glad you're here. I am really glad you're here. I got a problem, and I need your help. My name's Peter Hutchinson. Let me go back. I'm the superintendent of schools. I've just left a telephone call with the chairman of the school board. And he's made it pretty clear to me, this is my last year before my contract is up for renewal. He's made it very clear to me, if I don't get this problem fixed today, that his problem is going to become my problem, and I'm going to be gone. So I need your help. I have 44 minutes before the school board meeting in which I need to report back. And my problem is called central stores. Here's how it works. We got 100 schools in our school district. We serve about 50,000 students, 55,000 students. We have 4,000 teachers. Central stores is the place you go if you need a pad of paper, or you need a globe, or you need an overhead projector. We don't use those anymore, do we? If you need a new computer, you go to central stores. It's the warehouse. It's the purchasing procurement function. And central stores is funded out of the general fund budget. You know, I manage the budget. I'm the superintendent, so they get their money from me. I tell them, by the way, that this is a school district, not a distribution organization, so I don't want them to spend any more money than they ought to. In fact, I want money back from them every year. That's central stores. Their job is to buy the stuff our teachers need, make sure they get it, and save money. So how does it work if you're a teacher in our schools? Well, first of all, if you need something, you fill out a little requisition form. This is a little slip of paper about that big. You put it in the inter-office mail. It goes down to the distribution center. When it gets there, there's a receiving clerk that sorts out all these little slips of paper to figure out what people need and puts them in little stacks. And then what we call the pickers, they get one of these slips, they walk through the warehouse with a big cardboard box, they find what people need, and then they ship it off to the schools. Now, the pickers are really good. The warehouse is a very complicated place. I can't tell you as a superintendent who decided how to organize this place, but frankly, it's a disaster. So pencils, which are the things most people want to get, are in the back of the warehouse. And stuff that people almost never use is in the front. The paper is way off on one side. We use boxcar loads full of paper. It's just the most insane deal I've ever seen. And the pickers, you see, they learn over time where things are, and they wander around, and they pick up the stuff, they put it in their cardboard box, and when the box is complete, and only when it's complete, they ship the stuff to the schools. So there's partial boxes all over the place because, well, here's a problem. We run out of stuff all the time. You'd think we'd have everything that everybody needs, and we've got more than everybody needs, but we somehow don't have the things that people actually do need. So we have partial orders sitting around all the time waiting for the stuff to come in, but ultimately it all gets shipped to the schools. So that's our very sophisticated purchasing and procurement system. It takes about 6 weeks for a teacher to get the stuff they've ordered. The main reason they don't is that it's not in stock. Often what we actually ship is the best that we've got, which may or may not be what they actually asked for. Good example of this, when I first became superintendent, I visited every school and talked literally to every single teacher. And one told me this amazing story about ordering a map of the world, waiting 6 weeks because the other 2 things she ordered weren't ready in the warehouse, and the map she got was so old that the names of the countries weren't right. But it was good enough, right? That's what our warehouse people kept saying. It's the best map we've got. You're going to have to live with that. And as I mentioned, the warehouse is just incredibly disorganized. It's a very challenging environment. And worst of all, from my point of view, it's located right behind my office. So I get to see the warehouse all the time and listen to the complaints. And this is the central problem that I've got. The teachers despise central stores. They do not want to deal with these people. They just can't get what they want. They can't get what they need. They can't teach the lessons they're trying to teach. Unfortunately, the people in central stores despise the teachers and they despise central stores. They can't stand the teachers because every time they deliver something to them, they just get yelled at. And they hate central stores because they feel like they work their tails off and they get nowhere. I got to solve this problem because both the teachers and the central stores employees, all of whom are unionized, are doing nothing but complaining to my board. My board's complaining to me. I got to fix this problem. I have approximately 39 minutes to get this done. I'm glad you're here. As a room full of consultants, I know that with all of your background and those high salaries those consulting companies pay you, that you've got the answer. That's why you're here. So what else would you like to know from me in order to come up with a solution to this problem in the next 38 minutes? What else do you need to know? About how it works, about what the problem is, about how much jeopardy I'm in? Sir? What's the likelihood of being able to get rid of the central stores operation altogether? Let me remind you of something I said in passing. This is a unionized workforce. Sir? What's the end state that I want? I want joy, happiness, and kids learning things. Is that too much to ask? So the workers complain about two things. The question was, what do workers complain about in central stores? They complain about two things. Well, actually three things. The first is they just get yelled at by teachers all the time, and that's not fun. And they want that to go away. The place is really a very difficult place in which to work. There's stuff all over the place. If you're going out to pick things, it's a very cumbersome process because things aren't in any logical order. And every time a new person gets hired into central stores, it takes months to train them because there's no sort of system. It's not in alphabetical order, it's not in demand order, it's not in value order, it's just sort of random. And so you literally have to come into central stores and wander around a lot before you figure out how it actually works. Yes, sir?
So what are your functional and performance requirements for managing this inventory? Not what's broken, but what do you need to see happen?
Well, I think if I were to just say back to you what the teachers have said to me, they want their stuff in, well, when they're unreasonable, overnight, and when they're reasonable the same week in which they ordered it, and they want the stuff they asked for, which is the stuff they need. I think it's those two things. Get me the stuff I want and need, and get it to me quickly. Sir? So how long has this problem existed? I think it came down with the 10 Commandments. As near as I can tell, it's always been this way. I've just arrived a couple of years ago, but the stories that are told are legion about this. What interventions have we tried? I think the only thing I know about is that the superintendent, my predecessor, has regularly yelled at central stores, held them up to ridicule, hauled them before school board meetings to complain about their performance, that sort of top-down performance management, and that has only earned more enmity from the people in central stores. But other than that, I don't believe anything has been done. Back here.
How does a central store manage its inventory? And do they publish a list of what they have and how much is on hand?
That's a wonderful question. Wouldn't it be delightful if they knew what they had? There is no list. The only way we have a list is that when the orders go out, when we order from the suppliers and the stuff comes in, we actually have those, the pieces of paper, the requisitions, those are in a file somewhere. But that would be the only way we would know what we have. We don't have an inventory management system or something like that. So the way it actually works is when the pickers are going through the warehouse, they keep an eye on, how many pencils we have, how many reams of paper we have, and when it looks like it's getting low, they'll order some more. And that's basically all we've got. And I think it's one of the reasons why we run out is we're not really very good at figuring out when to order and how much to order. Yes, ma'am.
Well, my question was similar to that, but I want to know how the users know what they can request. So is the expectation a certain list, or do they just make a guess and they're disappointed half the time because it doesn't exist in Central Store anyway?
Yeah, so you remember I told you that the way you make a requisition is you fill out a little tiny sort of index card, and it's all handwritten. They order what they want. Sir?
Is there another school district or state or different place that has a process that works smoothly?
Wow, I wish I knew the answer to that question. I've only been superintendent for a little while, so I don't know what everybody else is doing. I only know how good our system is. Right here?
You might have said this before, but have you asked the workers in the store what they would want to make it successful and a place to work at?
So, as I mentioned, I went out and talked to all of the teachers. I've also had 2 meetings with the entire workforce in the warehouse. And what they say is, we just want the yelling to go away. You know, I think they honestly feel that they're working as hard as they can, and if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. Sir? Poor Nina is getting a real workout here.
I had a question for you. Do they still do the Pledge of Allegiance in our schools?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
At least in the school that I run. Back here. But try ordering a flag. You wish it had 50 stars on it.
So I guess what I would want to know is what type of resources and authority do I have to change this?
You mean me as superintendent?
Right,
So I'm the boss,
right.
and I can do anything that is allowed by law or contract. I control the budget. And I think what the board, well, I'll just tell you what the board chair said to me. He says, you come back here with a plan, and it better be a plan that we can believe in, that's executable. So not some pie-in-the-sky scheme, you know, that we wish we could do, but something we could actually do within the constraints of what we've got. We're running a school district. Like every school district in the world, we don't have enough money to do what we're supposed to do. So within those parameters, go figure this out. And basically, he didn't say it that politely, but that was the message. And in the roughly 32 minutes that remain, I have to come up with an answer to this question.
And then when does this have to be solved by? I know you have a plan within 32 minutes, but are they looking at I know right away, but do you have a year to solve this, 6 months to solve it?
I would, knowing my school board chair, I think I probably in 30 days there better be progress, and in 6 months, you know, certainly by the beginning of the next school year, we better have this behind us.
Okay, thank you.
Back here, Nina.
Do you have the flexibility to change job descriptions for your classified employees so that when you redesign the process, your inventory and store staff can do other duties as we streamline the operations?
Right. We have the ability to negotiate with our employees to do anything. And they have the ability to negotiate with us to not do that.
Did they give you any money to fix the problem?
So I have all the money there is. There's no new money. So the money that exists is the money that we have. And if we're going to spend money on something, it's going to come from something else. There is, and as I like to say, there's 100%. There's not 101%. And it's all allocated because, right, that's what we do. And so we have what we have, but we don't have what we don't have. And we're not going to have more. Maybe one more question, and then we better get working here. Yes?
Actually, this wasn't a question. This was kind of an answer. You can use the Amazon model. Most stuff ordered today, in fact, probably 95%, is already pre-barcoded. You barcode in, you barcode out, very minimal cost outlay. A lot of stuff has its own unique IP address, so you can actually Wi-Fi it and know exactly where it's stored. So you need to re-inventory your warehouse. Use barcoders to barcode in and out the supplies. UPS the stuff. Don't drive it to the schools. It's cheaper. You get a contract with UPS, you can save 50% on your transportation costs. You don't need that extra vehicle, that extra person. And then you've got it. And then once you run out of inventory, you should probably just order it from Amazon because it's cheaper.
Yeah, so this is a great segue to what I'm going to ask you to do now. Those of you sitting in the back, if you want to actively engage in trying to solve this problem, join one of these tables. At the tables, you've got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to really think about what's the answer to this question. What am I going to go propose to the board? And I mean in concrete terms, not some made-up stuff. I don't want any of that consultant 50,000-foot stuff. I need some 2,000-foot stuff. What am I going to do? What am I going to propose? What's my solution? So work together. You got about 15 minutes. Come up with answers. Be ready, because if they're not going to work, or if I think they're foolish, I'm going to tell you so. All right, off you go. Actually want, instead of the things they order at central stores. And as you can imagine, this just makes them even more pissed off. A second question came up just about the scale of things. Let me remind you, there are 100 schools, there are 4,000 teachers, there's one warehouse, and their budget, which I give to them, is $5.5 million a year, so it's roughly $100 per student. And they manage that money. That's their problem. And remember, I told you I expect them to actually return some of that every year, because I'd rather have money to spend on kids than spend on warehousing. So what am I going to do? You guys here, what did you decide? What should I go to the board with in 15 minutes? Wait for the microphone. We want you on record here.
So our plan was to start a cross-functional team with the warehouse workers, the teachers, and the unions to develop a plan. The first of that would be to stop the orders during spring break, to conduct an inventory, to reorganize and map that inventory, and in the short term, create a form for ordering, start a contract for a barcode system, centralize ordering at each of the schools so that the orders are going through the administrative offices.
Could I just hold on for just 1 second? I'm still stuck on the very first thing you said. So you want to get the teachers, the warehouse workers, and the unions together to sing Kumbaya and
Yes.
agree that we all have this problem together and we want to move forward together?
Yes, to get buy-in.
Yeah, well, they despise one another.
Well, that's
Got to
change
start
management.
somewhere. And then you said we want all of these people who normally get a break at spring break to actually work through spring break.
Well, normally the warehouse workers would work through spring break.
Not our warehouse workers.
Not your house. Well, that's why we have the union.
When our school is closed, everything's closed.
Well, then we could arrange a time period where everyone's in agreement where we would stop orders during the school year.
So let me just, I'm trying to get down to the practical level. So this means I'm going to tell my 4,000 teachers there's some period of time when you can't order anything.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they going to do when they hear that?
They're going to plan.
They're going to order everything, all at the same time. And what's going to happen at the warehouse?
Chaos.
Total, even worse chaos. What did you guys decide? I'll pick on you guys. What did you guys decide? Oh, let's say that to this, to the record here.
We decided that we would get rid of all the old stuff, reorganize the warehouse that makes sense, develop. We obviously need technology, so something with a procurement system. We would maybe possibly, while they're reconfiguring, maybe order directly from the supplier, maybe send out partial orders and track what is back ordered, maybe take out the middleman, reduce what's most active, just reduce anything that's not always on being ordered. All else, order another process.
And that's a hell of a long list. Who's going to do all that?
You.
This will be very persuasive to the school board. They already don't think I know what I'm doing. What did you guys come up with?
We said to revamp the warehouse over the summer. So if that means carving off some savings to pay overtime or whatever it is, if the warehouse workers don't work then you'd have to do something like that. Create some kind of a tracking system, and given that there's really no money for an extensive procurement system, maybe just a simple Excel spreadsheet to start with, to start tracking your inventory. And also start tracking what the schools are ordering, so you're developing some data, some history for each of the schools, so you have some knowledge about what they're ordering, so that that's the types of things that you can keep in stock, and ship partial orders and track what's on back order. And that's as far as we got.
And this, so you want me to spend money to pay overtime, then you want me to spend money to bring in an inventory system, and just give me a hint of where this money is going to come from.
Well, you said you wanted them to give part of that money back to you that you give to them each year, so tell them in advance, I'm working with you to solve your concern about how Central Stores is working, and I need this much money to pay the warehouse workers to revamp the warehouse, get their buy-in from it.
Who's the they?
The teachers, or the schools who you have been giving them their budgets, so carve a little bit off.
So take, just to summarize, take money away from the schools, give it to the warehouse, and tell everybody life is going to be better. Is it going to be? What was your solution over here?
Well, we just discussed some ideas. We were thinking maybe advocating for spending stipends for the teachers, something like quarterly basis, so that they have an amount to spend for their school supplies if they choose to do so. If they don't, then the money will go back to the school district and they can use it for the following year. We also thought that the teachers can consolidate the stipends and do the paperwork that is needed. And it shouldn't affect the budget. And this may also allow the school or the Central Stores information that they need to maybe do something to modernize their system, because when they start seeing a decrease in spending, they're going to know that there's a problem in their system.
Part of that I think I love, but when you say we're going to give them stipends, but it's not going to affect the budget, I got a little lost there. It sounds like money to me. What's the purpose of Central Stores? Why does Central Stores exist? To supply the needs of the teachers, right? What do you think the people in Central Stores think their purpose is? What message do they get from their boss? I'm the boss. I'm the boss of Central Stores. They get their budget from me. What's the message I'm sending them? Don't spend all the money. So they sort of have this, there's a conflict, right? There's a conflict in their sense of purpose. On the one hand, they're supposed to serve teachers. On the other hand, they're supposed to send me money. There's a conflict set up inside the organization called Central Stores, which they can't resolve. Right? They actually don't have the power to resolve that conflict. Who are they accountable to? Me. Right? An organization one of whom's purpose is to serve teachers is not accountable to teachers. It's accountable to the guy who wants the money back. So when they have to choose between serving teachers and serving me, who do you think they pick? I love it. You know, it's great to have power and authority. Except I've got myself in this little conundrum where everybody's pissed off and the board wants to know, what am I going to do about it? What are they rewarded for doing in Central Stores today? Giving me the money, right? That's the central incentive that they have because of the way the thing is set up. They've got these conflicting purposes. They're accountable not to the people they serve, but to the people they work for. And all their incentives are built around making sure that I end up happy. Because I decide whether they have a job, whether there's a Central Stores organization, right? It's not the teachers. Who has the power to make things happen in the warehouse, in the Central Stores operation? Do the workers have the power to fix things? No. Do the teachers have the power to make it better? No. This is a situation in which nobody has any power. Right? And to the extent that there is power, where is it? Right, back in my office, which Again, that's why the school board chairman is on my case. And what's the culture of this place? If you can imagine working inside this warehouse, what would you say are kind of the unwritten rules of the warehouse? Keep your head down, stay out of trouble, stay out of the way, do the best you can, understand that you can't do everything you want, go along, be okay, right? So if those are the 5 core conditions, conflicting purposes, accountability not to the people you serve but to the people you work for, the incentives are driving you to save money, not to produce a better outcome. If you don't have any authority to do anything and the culture is one of sort of stay low and don't cause too much trouble, does it shock any of you that we have these terrible results? Can you imagine? I mean, I was actually told as superintendent, what I need to do is fire all the people in central stores and hire a whole new group. Get rid of the nincompoops and hire a whole new group. Given those 5 conditions, would the new group do a better job? It's not possible, right? It's really not possible. And this is the only thing I want you to take away from this session. The only thing. This is, I think, one of the, if I can get this to work right, this is one of the only things I know to be true in the world. Every system and organization produces exactly the results it is designed to produce and none other. The question is not whether or not we like the results. The question is whether we have the design that will produce the results we want. Every system, every organization produces exactly the results it is designed to produce and none other. I learned the hard way. You can fire the nincompoops and bring in a new group and they will soon be nincompoops. It's as though we were taking cucumbers and putting them in the brine of the organization and expecting them not to become pickles. We all get pickled. You've all worked in your organizations long enough to be full-fledged dill pickles. And you probably don't even notice all the things that are part of the pickling, but that's the design. The clarity of purpose, the understanding of accountability, the way incentives are organized, the degree to which you have power and authority, and the culture. Those are the dimensions of the pickling. They're what we call the DNA of an organization. They are the thing that drive performance more than anything else. I used to be the commissioner of finance for the state of Minnesota. I gave hundreds of speeches about encouraging people to save money while our system was telling them just the opposite. The system always won. The system is still there, and I'm not the commissioner of finance anymore. The system is still sending this crazy message, and we're still giving speeches about the importance of saving money. So what we need to do if we're going to transform is to transform the design. We need to focus on the design, on purpose, on accountability, on incentives, on control, and on culture. If we get those aligned, we can get the performance we want from the people we have. If we don't get those aligned, it won't matter what we did with the people. They're going to do what the system says. Systems are stronger than we are. So here's what happened in this case. This is an actual real case. I was faced with this exact dilemma. I was the superintendent of schools. And like you, I wanted to get into the details and understand the mechanics. And I completely failed to understand that this was a design problem, not a process problem. That all of the other stuff I might do, I wasn't smarter. I don't know enough about warehousing and procurement and distribution to be able to actually run the warehouse and get an inventory management system and reorganize the warehouse. I don't know anything about that. The people that know the most about that are in the warehouse. So a friend of mine came to me and said, "You're working on the wrong problem. Work on the design. Figure out how to change all those 5 dimensions, and the system will change its performance for you. You don't have to worry about all the mechanics. You need to worry about the design." So here's what we did. Some of this is going to sound kind of familiar. We took the $5.5 million that was in the, think of it as a general fund appropriation to the warehouse, we took it away from the warehouse and we gave it to the schools. And in doing that, we said to the warehouse, you now work for the schools. You don't work for the superintendent. We said to the schools, you can buy your school supplies anywhere you want. Home Depot, Staples, Target, anywhere you want, and central stores. Now, as you might imagine, the people in the schools were thrilled and the central stores' unionized employees were not so thrilled. So what we said was, here's what we're going to do. We're not guaranteeing that people won't buy from central stores. We're just saying they can buy wherever they want. But we're going to give you a year head start. So we won't actually implement this grand scheme for a year. But in the, not this school year, but the next school year, we're going to flip the switch, and that's how it's going to work. And then I went back to my office. And I sat there basically for a year, waiting to see what was going to happen. That's metaphorical, by the way, but it wasn't my job to figure out what Central Stores was going to do. It was Central Stores' job.
5 minutes.
And every time they asked me, could we do this, the answer was yes. As long as they were doing it within the budget, they still had the $5.5 million, so as long as they were doing it within the budget, it wasn't my job to tell them they could or could not do anything. So fast forward 1 year. It used to take 6 weeks to get stuff to our schools, and they'd get the wrong stuff. They turned that into overnight delivery, the right stuff, the right time, to the right school. As somebody suggested, they sold off all of the useless inventory, which turned out to be $3 million worth of inventory, and reinvested the $3 million in reorganizing the warehouse, putting an inventory management system in, changing the delivery schedules, optimizing the routes, and they did it. So I went back. First I went out to the schools to say, how's it going with Central Stores? And they were going, we don't know what the heck you did, but you did a great job. And I kept saying, I didn't do a darn thing. It was all the people in the warehouse. And they just couldn't believe how good it was. In fact, the schools were so thrilled by the performance of Central Stores that Central Stores' volume of business went up 15%. So they didn't lose a thing. They actually ended up further ahead, because the schools then said, instead of doing all these other things they were doing to try to get the stuff they needed, they were lying and cheating and stealing and using other parts of their budget, they just put it all in Central Stores. So then I go down to the warehouse. And I want to be clear about this. We did not change a single human being in the warehouse. So I sat down with the warehouse workers. I said, how do you like working here? We love it. Really, what do you like about it? I said, well, we've never worked harder in our lives. I mean, we're moving all the time. We're lickety-split. We're on top of things. We know what's going on. We never rest. But when we take things out to the schools, they say thank you. The single most powerful motivator there is. And this taught me this lesson that you can tell I'm a little passionate about this, about the importance of getting the design right. Every system, every organization produces exactly the results it's designed to produce and none other. And if we try to get misdesigned organizations to do stuff, they can't. And we call that failure. But the failure is ours for not having fixed the design. And when we get the design right, the power of purpose aligned with accountability, aligned with incentives, aligned with power, and aligned with culture, that's pretty big stuff. And it can overcome all of the peculiarities of individuals and time and space and all kinds of other things. And by the way, the unions ended up liking this quite a bit. Thank you very much. Because people ended up happier, doing better work, feeling more fulfilled, feeling like they had clarity of purpose. Pretty wonderful experience. End of lesson. Thank you for your help. Really appreciate it.